Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about Nigeria. I've been on social media, listening to the news and whatnot, and a lot of people are experiencing and expressing so many different views about things that happened in the country. And I wanted to, say my own perspective on these issues. People are complaining that the government is not doing anything, that things are getting bad, everybody's blaming the president or the past president or whoever. And I wanted to put things in perspective. I think we should look at where we are coming from as a nation before we can then talk about where we are and where we are going to. The amalgamation in 1914 was what brought about the entity of Nigeria, the polity of Nigeria. It was formed in 1914 when the British decided to join the northern and southern protectorates of what is now modern-day Nigeria. And it was formed as an economic entity. In other words, Nigeria was a company that was formed by the British to make money for them. This formation did not correlate with ethnic and religious boundaries, but brought together people from 371 different tribes with different beliefs and opposing beliefs. There are some tribes that allow for child marriage, 11, 12-year-olds, and then some other tribes think that is abnormal. And then there are some tribes that will spend so much money on funerals, burials, and ceremonies. Then some other tribes will think that is abnormal. Nigeria became a very, very diverse union very quickly. This action was not natural, and it began to show. Communication, religious, and ethnic gaps and differences began to segregate people. Clusters began to form, and tribalism increased. In 1960, we became an independent nation. Between 1960 and 1993, there were 9 attempted and 6 successful coups. This forced change of regimes did not allow for continuity of proper implementation of economic policies. Between 1960 and 1999, there were 3 civilian regimes. The first civilian regime was also called the First Republic. Political unrest and segregation and tribal loyalty led to the first coup. The second civilian regime was also called the Second Republic, and it started in 1979 with President Shehu Shagari's rule. This regime was overthrown on the grounds of corruption and administrative incompetence. The third civilian regime, which was also called the Third Republic, was that of Chief MKO Abiola, who was elected president of Nigeria. But due to the annulment by then head of state, General Babangida, Chief Abiola never took the oath of office as president and did not rule as president of Nigeria. The reasoning for the annulment is believed to be personally motivated. Majority of the regimes, both military and civilian, had strong elements of corruption. Nigeria, as a union, has suffered from various challenges such as corruption and administrative ineptitude for 104 years, if we are counting from 1914. Nigeria, as a country, has suffered from these same challenges for 57 years, if we're counting from 1960. All leaders between 1960 till date have been accused of corruption or corrupt practices. Our Fourth Republic, which is our current republic, started in 1999 and has seen the longest civilian reign in our history. For 16 years, from 1999 to 2015, the PDP reigned. There were many allegations of corruption with various indictments, incarceration and probes, showing huge sums, billions of naira and dollars, going missing in that time frame. Between 2006 and 2013, 55 Nigerians embezzled 1.34 trillion naira. The corruption index averaged 20.48 points between 1996 and 2017 and currently stands at 27 in 2015. The APC government came into power and they had the popular vote. Their mantra for change resonated with the views of most people. Unfortunately, people didn't understand the concept of change, and they still don't. Yes, the leaders of the APC were experienced politically, but they came to power on a brand new platform, one which had to find its level, just like water does. They had to understand the dynamics of power in that party, and they are still trying to do this currently. We, the citizens, expected the new government to reverse activities and consequences of corruption, which have taken place for 104 years in 4 years. I don't think that is very realistic. We compare ourselves to developed nations, which have had decades and centuries of advancement, trials and errors before they found their balance. We compare ourselves to these nations without studying them and knowing the sorts of challenges that they faced, or even learning from their mistakes. Some of the policies implemented by the government were created to undo the effects of decades of corruption and may take 5, 10, 15, 20 years to become evident to the general public. It is not everything that will be known by the public. Some of them for public policy reasons and some of them for security reasons. For instance, Boko Haram strategies. You can't just go around saying, this is how we're going to combat Boko Haram, because the Boko Haram people too will probably be listening to that information. Also, before things get better, they do tend to get worse. The darkest part of the night is just before dawn. Taking down corruption will shake many tables and destroy many institutions, organizations, status quo, and order of doing things due to the inherent corruption present in the everyday mindset of a Nigerian. When you want to renovate a house, there will be tearing and knocking down. And in that period, the building will look ugly and unattractive. This is the wrong time to give the government a scorecard. It is like coming to assess renovation works after tearing down and knocking down, without allowing the builder to build, plaster and finish. Constant interruption and transition of government is tantamount to a coup, because it prevents continuity and full implementation of policy, which affects the common Nigerian. President Buhari and Professor Shibaju are not God. Have they made mistakes? Yes, they have. Have they done good? Yes, they also have. Are their policies conventional? No, they are not. And there are things that we can fault them for. But let's look at the big picture. If we look at things long term, how is our nation doing, locally and internationally? Actions such as banning of importation, etc., seems to have negative consequences initially, and prices actually rose. But since the banning of importation, we've seen local businesses thriving, and we've seen the price of commodities go down, such as the price of rice, which dropped by 30%. Foreign direct investments are investments which have come from foreign organizations into Nigeria. Previously, a lot of companies pulled out of Nigeria and simply refused to invest in Nigeria. And even when the APC government came into power, some companies decided to leave due to the unconventional means employed. But in 2017-2018, we've seen an increase in the amount of foreign direct investment coming into Nigeria. This increase has been due to an implementation of economic policies which are indicators of stability to these companies. These policies have led to stability of the naira against the dollar, and though it may take a while, the naira will continue to rise. Most people don't know about the 701 billion naira intervention fund by the federal government to assist power plants. And this intervention fund has led to stability of our electricity generation at around 4,000 megawatts. 7.2 million children are being fed daily in 19 states of the country. Foreign reserves have grown by $12 billion. A lot of people will ask, how does this concern them? How does this put food on my table? Let's look at this scenario. In a family where both parents are not working and the parents receive some funds, would it be more prudent to use the entirety of the money, in other words, the whole money, to buy food and clothes for the whole family? Or would it be more prudent and wiser to buy little food for the family and use the rest to start a business that will provide an income and therefore stability for the whole family? A lot of people will say, let's go for the investment option. But during that period, the children would view these parents as wicked. Papa has money, I am drinking Gary. Patience as a virtue is rewarded. Let's allow the government to work, but we shouldn't sit idly. We need to change our value system as a nation. Our corrupt way of thinking needs to go. How many of us have taken one way when we're driving, or cut into a line, into a queue? Bros, please. There are people on the queue, but we're still cutting. How many of us have bribed an official 200 naira so that they can free us, so that they can look the other way? If the system is perfect and we still think corruptly, we will not move forward. Instead, we will be like a boat on water, moving in a circle, paddling and working hard and not going anywhere. This is not an excuse for the mistakes and actions of the government, but a reminder that the officials are human, just as we are humans, and to remind us that each and every one of us is the government. The power is in our hands. Let's not sell our birthright for porridge. Let's not collect 10,000 naira in exchange for government benefits such as better roads, lights, and good health care from an effective government. These are my own personal views, and every other person is entitled to their own opinion on this issue. To effectively look at an issue, You must observe holistically. I hope this helps in putting things into perspective. Thank you. My name is Samuel Orekoya.